right, so wrapping up day 2 of CoinGeek week. Today was the Merchants Day. We're joined by Lorien Gamaroff from Centbee. So thank you for wrapping this up with us.
My pleasure.
What are your initial thoughts of in total, and then I guess today in general?
Well, it's very encouraging to see bright minds, interesting business cases, as passionate about Bitcoin, a protocol that can't change as I am. I think that whenever you have these existential crises in Bitcoin, as we've had before, the community seems to divide in half, and you wonder who's left. People that you were friends with and felt like you had common things with, and suddenly they're on the other side, and it can become quite disheartening when you feel like your community is shrinking. But I think that when you just look at what the speakers are talking, when you look at what's happening in terms of business development, that's really encouraging. And I was always of that mind that Bitcoin can't be this underground thing forever. If it is going to grow, if you look at how BTC keep hoping that the ETFs start moving in, that's never going to happen when you have a protocol that is flaky, and you need to start embracing business. So this is what this has felt like we now are growing up, as Jimmy said. So it's very encouraging.
I think we met up with you the first day we got here, and I think you kind of set the tone for the week for me when we had a conversation. And it just felt really good you made a point that we're all on the same page, that we just want a stable protocol of Bitcoin, and we want to build on top of that. And that's kind of rang through my head the entire week. And then it's been really refreshing to be surrounded by just a ton of professional, business-minded people that want to see this come to the globe. And Centbee today had quite a few exciting announcements. I can't remember all the names of them. I had them written down, so I won't butcher them, and I'll let you talk on them. So what's going on with Centbee right now?
Sure. Well, we're trying to make a wallet that people want to use, but it's got to be functional and useful. So we're trying to think of all the different things that somebody would want in a payment experience. It's not enough that a payment is fast and instant. I guess that is almost accepted now, that is just given. But as soon as your app becomes something that you want to engage with frequently, then I think you've got a winner. But when you think about wallets aren't something that you open and look at and play with. You've got your balance, and that's where it is, and it only comes out your pocket when you want to go and pay with something. So I'm trying to make a Bitcoin wallet, more social and more interactive and more alive. So that's why we're thinking of all these different things we can bundle into it. Obviously, it gets to a point where you might be putting too much in, and we try not to do that. We don't want to make this big bloated app. There's a lot of bank apps that I see that always have 101 features. You can get loans and so on. But I'm trying to think of those things that make people want to engage with Centbee more often. So the first one, which is actually out now, Cash Map. That's the sort of very bare bones of what Cash Map is meant to be. Something that you can open up, and you can see merchants that are accepting Bitcoin. But what's nice about that is that you can start bundling other interesting things in there. There are some payment apps that I've used before that when you make payments at the merchant, you get, when you get a card punched, and then when you've done 10 lattes or something, you get a free one. So we're going to think about that sort of thing, trying to make it so when you select a merchant, you can maybe have some kind of loyalty scheme. In fact, we've got a loyalty program we're devising right now called Honey. And that's going to be a way for people to not just know who is in the location, the district, but also be able to engage with those merchants and have some kind of reward scheme, some kind of incentive scheme to come back. So that's very much the Cash Map, that whole idea. And then there's going to be, ScanPay is a separate product altogether, but the thing we're most excited about, and what Centbee was always meant to be, and that's why the logo is a little chat bubble. Centbee was always meant to be a chat app. So finally we can show you what it looks like. But that's going to be launched probably early next year, depending on how mad things are. But that's, to me, was always an integral part of what Centbee was meant to be. It was meant to be whenever you try and build a successful app, you try and steal what other successful apps are doing. And when I was thinking about all the most successful apps in the world now, even apps like Instagram or Twitter, they all have chat. Everything is about chat nowadays. If you can put chat into your app, then you've got one of those ingredients that makes an app more useful. I used Twitter. I often chat to people on Twitter. I don't just post on Twitter. And when you think about Bitcoin is a kind of payment system that feels chatty in a way. If I can say send 1 Bitcoin, it feels more natural than if I was to now go and scan a QR code or just select my contact and have a money input. So that was always temporary. Now we've got a chat pay coming, and I think it'll be nice. I think it's going to be a nice way to pay friends, and also groups, because you can have chat groups and you can split money amongst friends. You can pay all. Maybe you can split bills, or who knows. So we're very excited about chat pay and the fact that we've been able to announce it.
Awesome. Can you talk about the payment processor SDK?
Yes. So that is that's going to be a very complex, dense set of tools and things that we've been working on with nChain. nChain actually came and commissioned us to do deep research into the existing traditional payment system, especially in terms of retail payments. So what types of payments are there? What types of points of sale? How can we now go and hook Bitcoin into those systems? Because we all know, especially large retailers, take forever to adopt something new. If you are going to present something new to them, they really have to have a compelling reason to adopt that. Either customers have to be demanding it, or there has to be this, if they don't accept it, then they're going to be missing out. So with Bitcoin, especially because Bitcoin isn't so, people are demanding to spend things with Bitcoin. I guess it's the people who had a lot of Bitcoin and they want to spend it on their Lambos at the Y company. But if you wouldn't necessarily think that somebody would acquire Bitcoin or have Bitcoin and go buy a cup of coffee. Although I think that if those points of sale do accept Bitcoin, I certainly would like to spend my Bitcoin on coffee. So we've been doing this for months now. We've been researching and going through a lot of design, trying to figure out where are those integration points that we can now seamlessly wire Bitcoin payments into the existing points of sale that are on the all the cash lanes, on all the lanes in these retailers. So we at first envisioned this as a sort of SDK that we could build and then just give it to the community. But it looks like there's going to be a lot of other things like methodologies. For example, I mentioned the QR code, the EMV QR code. That was just when I was going through the EMV spec, I realized that a QR code, when you scan it globally, the EMV code is accepted globally. You can see that there's usual information, there's transaction ID, there's payment amount, but they have these little extra fields. And I've built a BIP70 payment processor, and if you could just tweak that BIP70 standard slightly, make it BIP70 plus, you can get it to read an EMV code. You can then make the payment, have a payment processor in the background, which then settles with the merchant. And the merchant doesn't really know that that's even happened. All they know is that they are getting a payment advice, which is a payment instruction. They have a relationship with the payment processor who's settling the fiat with them. And they don't have to make any changes to the existing system. They don't have to now go and put new hardware onto the counter. They don't have to train their staff. All you've got to do is go to the merchant integrator, which is what these merchants have, and just say, please add a little payment to your processor URL. So that's very much like a BIP70 code, because a BIP70 is a payment URL and then a code, which is usually an ID or transaction ID, and then the payment processor will return back the amount of Bitcoin and the address, pay to address. So there's an example of you're not having to produce any technology, but it's a set of instructions or methodologies that you can give to somebody and say, look, here's a very easy way to integrate payments into the existing system. Why don't you try that? So I think we're going to have a whole lot of different things. We're going to have some technologies. I mean, the POS, for example, the BIP70 POS is an example. And also the payment processing engine, we're creating some adapters into different exchanges and so on. So there's going to be a whole lot of different things, and that's going to, I'm sure, be ongoing over the next, year, 2 years, and hopefully get the community involved.
That's awesome. I'm really excited.
So we were talking the other night, and we've been having a lot of conversations with the recent guests. Why SV? Why are you here?
So, I just went through this split, and as a wallet provider, it hit me hard. I have had non-stop people twittering and emailing, and how do I get my coins? Now I've got a stuck transaction. I sent an ABC coin here and it didn't get here, and it was completely destructive. Now there's like a lot of buzz about Centbee is broken and so on, and we have to do a lot of support in that regard. We also had to roll out an SV node, and we had to change software. So it's just totally impractical. We now have to do damage control with our customers. We have to try and explain to them, why is the price down? Why can't you send coins to a Bitcoin.com wallet? It's just so destructive that if you think this could potentially happen again in the future, and right now it's not like Centbee is huge. We've got a few tens of thousands of users, but imagine I hope to get to a point where I can say I have a million users or 10 million users. And now, can you imagine our mail boxes and our support desk? So it just makes sense. If you're a business and you're operating in this space, to even suspect or have this sense that the protocol could change and I have to rebuild and I have to go and do all this damage control with my customers, it just makes no sense. And businesses like mine are going to know this. And I don't think any business after having gone through this is going to think, oh, that's okay. I'm quite happy for developers to tinker and add extra value, because they wanted to produce their own different things. As a company, I'm building on a protocol. I cannot expect that will change. And if there is any hint of that, I have to move. So SV was just, a no-brainer. Also, having been involved with Bitcoin for so long, I like the way Bitcoin works as a basic protocol. It's simple. It's neutral. It doesn't have any funny things in there that a regulator might notice and look at and say, sorry, we can't do that. I think, Bitcoin toes a very fine line between what a regulator might deem respectable and not. And as soon as we try and go over that line, then there's going to be issues down the line. I know that regulators are slow to catch up, but they are studying these things. And we must make sure that they can't look at the protocol, the Bitcoin protocol, and have any problem with it. So Bitcoin, the way it was devised by Satoshi Nakamoto, was perfect. Of course, there's going to be bugs in terms of the implementations, but that's okay. It's we were speaking about soccer. You want to know that the rules are set in stone. How you train your team, what you feed them, what you dress them in, makes no difference. As long as you don't change the rules, the game of soccer can be played. So SV is exactly what a business wants to hear, a set-in-stone protocol.
Great. Well, we should make sure we can let you network and drink some drinks. But I do want to talk about the fact that a lot of your users are actually in countries that kind of surprise you. Could you just talk about what that's been like to see the user base growth? And
I think largely it didn't surprise us because that was, we were targeting, we wanted emerging economies. And India for us was, it's a giant country. I mean, there's over 1 billion people. And that was the sort of country that I was expecting to get a lot of growth. And other emerging economies. I wasn't interested in going for countries that had exchanges and people who are familiar with crypto. That's not where I see the massive growth, and also where I see where the paradigm shift is going to happen. People tinkering on exchanges and flipping coins. That's not paradigm shifting. But somebody, in India or wherever we have, we've got some funny countries like Nepal and Turkey is big, and Colombia, Bangladesh. That's exactly what we want. We want people who've never had crypto. And I always thought that if you can get those people, they're not going to have any expectation. They're not going to think, oh, this is only a Bitcoin wallet. I want this to be a Bitcoin and Ethereum wallet. And also, if you can get somebody first, their first experience of a wallet, if you're lucky enough to be their first experience and it's not a horrible experience, then it's kind of like your first girlfriend. You have that soft spot for that thing. And so we wanted to have that take that emotional opportunity and try and capture people that they've heard of Bitcoin, but never actually had it. And we also know that if you just give somebody a wallet and it's empty, it's worth nothing. Nobody's going to care. They won't install it. It makes no difference. So we have been running this dollar campaign. We've picked $1. It's a nice round amount, because that at least gives somebody something to watch. They can see the price going up and down, and they can feel that they've got a little living creature on this wallet, and that gives them reason to hold on to this thing. That's been actually working too well. We've just been pumping bitcoins into this system, and with the price dropping to the floor, we keep having to up the price, the payment we're making. So I think it's about 700,000 satoshis now. So we can't continue that forever, but it certainly is a good way of getting users, and we hope that we can keep them.
Great. Well, you guys had 2 presentations. So Angus from Centbee as well.
Yeah, no, we're lucky.
So I encourage everyone, when those do come out, to watch them both. Centbee is an exciting wallet. I use it myself. I'm glad you guys were, I think, the first wallet to go SV only. So that's really exciting as well. And it's been very great getting to know you and talking to you this week.
You guys too. Love your show.
And so we're excited to see, the progression of everything you announced today. So thanks for coming on.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, Corey.